might be coming for Kobolds, but remember, I write manga. And yes, while we have paused Devil's Deal in order for Zeno to work on the mating manual, you bunch of sick fucking degenerates. But a lot of people have been asking the question, well, if I want to get into your mangas that take place in the same world the mating manual does, which one should I start out with? And I'm probably going to recommend Night of Slaughter is going to be the first one that you're going to want to start with. It takes place 120 years before the Devil's Deal and about 300 years after the Deep Stalker Crow series. And the reason I'm going to recommend this series first is because if you are a traditional manga reader, it's going to be a lot more familiar to you. It starts very traditionally shonen as the story follows Veronica. She was raised on stories of knights, valor, and glory. And guess what? On her 7th birthday, her father gives her a wish spell. If you play D&D, you know what the 9th level's wish spell is? Yeah, he gives her that. So this story follows a dark coming-of-age tale of her going through that apprenticeship and her realizing the world's not as black and white as she thought. And some of the heroes that helped raise her, like Lady Petals, isn't as holy as she once thought. This is a weird shot, but I'm referencing the fact she in one attack destroyed 6.6 Texas's worth of landmass. And I did the math, and that's basically half the US gone like a Thanos snap. The second book I would recommend is my Deep Stalker Crow series, which is like if Bloodborne and The Witcher had a baby. And the reason I'm going to recommend this one is because it also has a similar start to shonen, but it does have a little bit more depressive themes in it. It's got a little bit more gore in it. Well, that's not necessarily a fair statement. Night of Slaughter gets dark, like berserk levels of dark the longer you go, but it starts a lot shonen-ier. This series starts out shonen-ish, but is more upfront about how dark it gets. What I mean by that is we did a live reading of the last half of the Night of Slaughter, Volume 1, last week. Everything was going fine until we hit Chapter 9, and if you know this scene, you know where it's about to go. I literally heard a collective from like the 12 people we had at the live reading, because they didn't expect it to get as dark as it does. But Chapter 9 definitely sets the tone for the rest of the series. And so while I absolutely love the art style of Deep Stalker, I understand it's not going to be everyone's first choice, especially if you're coming from a manga background. But the themes and the experiences of the hunter are similar enough that I think a lot of people can get behind, especially if they're familiar with the Witcher series and the Lovecraftian nature of Bloodborne. Then we got Devil's Deal. I love Devil's Deal. It is by far the most grounded series out of the three. It tackles subjects that are going to be very apparent to the American middle class, such as job loss, governmental oversight in terms of how we take care of our veterans, depression, medical care, and an actual depiction of a healthy couple being put through the ringer. All of this put into a fantasy setting to ask you the ultimate question: when you were born into a certain position in life, regardless of your race, sex, or economic status, how far will you go to define yourself and to protect the ones you love? And so while this story absolutely does have a ton of action and a really cool cast, and everyone I've talked to that has read this story says they love it, hands down, it's probably one of their favorite stories because they can connect to almost every character on an emotional level, because it's such a unique departure from everything that we're used to in anime and manga. And on top of the fact, Salma is a full-figured black woman with 2 kids and a husband. She's not a Yurichi that is designed to be sexualized and pumped out to be the American beauty. When readers, especially women, read this story, they should feel that they are seen. Men should be able to not only find themselves in Yuso, but also in Salma, because it's about looking at what society has assigned you and finding what actually makes you, you, and not what society tells you you should be. And while all the other stories have unique themes that are going to touch people, Salma's story is so grounded and is going to hit so close to the American middle class that it's a harder sell, because Devil's Deal is not going to hold your hand through this journey. It's going to drag you into this world and pull you kicking and screaming alongside Salma. But if you go to the bio description, you can click on the link and read them for free. I only paywall the last chapter of each book.